The first thing I got to tell you is, I know you're in Washington. I want you to know I'm pretty sure the global warming thing's over because it's 55 in Tulsa right now, and I'm not lying. It's 25 here in Enid.
Oh my gosh! Well, last week during the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's,
Yeah.
I was with my wife and I and a bunch of our kids were right there in our place at Grand Lake.
Hmm.
That weather, it never got up to freezing during that time, and I thought, where is global warming when you really need it?
Exactly.
But nonetheless, hey, so I'll be in Enid tomorrow. Are you aware of that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I will, and I'll be doing there. One of the reasons I'm going to be there, I'm being there with a very large farm group, and I'm introducing today legislation that they're very excited about, and I
Hmm.
think you will be too. Could I just kind of mention what this is?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we've got what we're introducing, and I didn't want to do it until I had a real good Democrat co-sponsor, and I have Senator Udall from New Mexico who will be joining me, and we'll be introducing the Wildlife Regulatory Relief Act. Now, we all remember. You're far enough out west there. You remember what happened during the wildfires that we had out west of you, and I was out there 3 times in my plane, and trying to console the farmers. It was horrible what was going on to see the animals being burned alive and all of that. So what we did was looked to see what could be done so that we could give more relief in the case that we had another disaster like that. So what this bill does is allows, just for one example, one of the problems they had, they were not able to get their animals where they could feed the animals because of the fires, and so this allows them to graze on CRP lands if some disaster occurs. It doesn't have to be a wildfire; it can be anything else. It also provides FEMA to come in and go beyond just a household in case something like that happens, because they also have fence rows and other problems in conjunction with that. And then something that doesn't sound like it'd be that significant, but it is. You talk to your community banks up there, and they'll tell you that one of the problems they had, they were not able to, because of the regulations and the over regulations, I might add, of community banks, they're not able to give the loans out to their farmers had such great losses in the disaster. So it makes them immune from some of the regulatory confines that otherwise they would have. And so this is something that's very exciting. I'll be presenting this to in Enid tomorrow,
Awesome.
and also we have a group coming in because I'm a big aviation group, called the AOPA, that's Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. The big national operation is going to be there in Enid, and we're going to be talking about some of the things we're doing for aviation. So I'll be looking
Nice.
forward to be there and seeing you guys in Enid tomorrow.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, where are you going to be located?
Uh, I don't know. Do you know where I'm
Okay.
going to be located? Well, I know I'll be landing. I'll be
Yes.
landing my plane at the municipal airport. Sometimes I fly in advance, but I won't be doing it tomorrow.
Okay.
And so that's where we'll be. We'll have one of our very large meetings. Going to be out there.
All right. Good
And
deal.
now I want to mention to you, if I could, our
Yep.
website is inhofe.senate.gov. Inhofe.senate.gov. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that, and I'd like to have you kind of make a note of it, is because we're doing this regulatory thing, this tax reform that we had and the tax reduction. People
Yeah.
don't understand how good that is. They really don't. And I was with the president last week, and I was expressing some dissatisfaction because other than using radio and getting around the state, that's the only way that I was able to try to get to people to let them know there are very, very few people listening to us right now as we're speaking, Alan, that are not going to have a big benefit as a result of this bill passing. So
Hmm.
the companies are responding now. I was coming back on American Airlines on Monday, and and she didn't know who I was, but the flight attendant was celebrating because she showed me a check for $1,000, and
Very
then
cool.
and then all the rest of the employees, every employee outside of the officers of American Airlines, is walking around with $1,000 check right now. And it's
Awesome.
not just American Airlines. I have a list, and the reason I wanted to give you my website is that there's 123 companies that do business in Oklahoma that are giving out checks. It's averaging about $1,000 an employee. So we're talking about literally millions of employees right now are immediately getting a benefit because they know with between the what this administration is doing and taking out some of these job-losing regulations, and of course the new tax plan, they are celebrating, and the beneficiaries are the employees. These, you kept hearing, well, this is going to go to these corporations. No, we have tax. We're changing the tax structure for individuals in Middle America. We're doing increasing the child tax credit. All these things benefit just normal middle income people, and now they're seeing the results of that with thousands of people right there in the state of Oklahoma walking around with big bonuses. So anyway, if you'll go to my website, if you have any reluctance in believing what I'm saying here, you can see how many companies that you deal with on a regular basis are rewarding their employees because of what's going to happen. I wasn't here at that time, but I'm old enough to remember what happened in 1981 when Reagan had the first major. Well, it wasn't the first. Actually, this was Kennedy's idea. He is the one who said if we reduce marginal rates, we can increase money coming into the government. And the reason for that, and again, this was Kennedy's idea originally, was that for each 1% increase in economic activity in our country, in America, that produces an additional $3 trillion over a 10-year period. Well, Reagan picked up on that and said, this worked back when Kennedy did it, so we're going to do it again. In 1981, he had the largest tax reduction going across the board. You might remember the top rate went from 70% to 50%, and all other rates went down accordingly. Now, the total amount of revenue in 1981 coming into the federal government was $469 billion, and that turned into $750 billion as a direct result of the tax reductions that went into place. Well, that is what's happening. Those reductions that we passed just the other day, the president has signed, and are now part of our past. Those are far more than the reductions that we had in 1981. So really good things are happening. People are benefiting today. And while they're looking at my website to see the number of companies that are giving these bonuses to their employees as a result of the tax bill, also look, I have a list in there of all of the regulations. There are 71 regulations so far that were passed during the Obama administration that we have now are either in the process of or have actually eliminated. And I'm very proud to say that the first one that this new president signed happened to be a regulation that Obama had put in, that I introduced a bill and passed it to do away with that regulation. In fact, I'm sorry, I had to cough a little bit there. But that was, and that regulation was one that said if you're a domestic oil or gas company and you're competing with China, you have to give them your playbook and exactly how you came out with your bid, which put us in a disadvantage. Well, we've changed that now and actually had a signing ceremony. So you can get that list by consulting the website as well as the other list.
Excellent. Inhofe.senate.gov is what you're talking about.
That's it.
I know it's not on the list of things to talk about, and there are a gazillion things we could talk about, but I'm really curious how, when you remove all of the hubbub and the media and all the directions, what's Jim Inhofe's take on Donald Trump?
Okay, if you had asked me that a year ago, or before he actually started, the first thing he did was get into the overregulation, and that I became a fan at that time. All right. Or I would say this. I got a phone call from him back in the 9th of a year ago, the 9th of October. Now, that's when we knew he was going to be the Republican nominee, but he hadn't won the presidency yet. And He said, and I hardly knew the guy. I'd only met him once. He said, Inhofe, would you come to New York and visit with me? And I said, yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything. So I went the next day, and I was among 14 people. And those are the people that sat up around a table in Trump Tower, and each one is an expertise in different areas. So they had somebody there on on healthcare, someone on energy. I was there for military. And so he had 14 people, and he was listening that whole time. And I became really impressed on the way he operates. I have to say now that the way he's doing the tweets, I know it offends a lot of people, but you have to circumvent a media that doesn't like you and go straight to the people, and that's what he has done. Now, as a result of that, some great things have happened. Look at North Korea. You know, we went through 8 years of Obama, who was a pacifist, who was one who is apologetic, if you remember, about everything that we're doing in America. And all of a sudden, we have just the opposite of someone that says, and he has said to North Korea, you've been building this up. We know the capability we have. We saw on November 28th, you're able to reach continental. They can actually reach Enid, Oklahoma from North Korea. And he said, so you may say you've got a button, you're ready to push it. We've got a bigger button, and we're going to blow you off the map. And all of a sudden, almost the next day, North Korea, called South Korea, are getting together now and going to be participating in the Winter Olympics together. All these things are happening because we got a tough president who has reestablished America as the leader of the free world. So does that answer your question?
That was what I was looking for, because I wanted a blunt answer, and I know you've always been blunt, and I figured that and I wanted to ask about the Twitter thing too. So that's awesome. And I also saw where I guess Kim Jong-un is actually mysteriously ill now. Something's going on. I don't know what that's about.
I didn't know that. I missed that part, but I do know that all of a sudden he has turned into someone who realizes that we actually have a president. Look at Syria. Back when Obama was president, he'd draw the line in the sand, and if you use chemical weapons, we're going to do this. Then he never did anything. Well, this president, as soon as they used chemical weapons, he just went over there and just blew up the whole system. And so people know that he means business. Look what's happening in the Ukraine now. Poroshenko was so proud that when they had their parliamentary election, and I happened to be there at that time, when for the first time in 96 years, there's not one communist on the parliament in the Ukraine. And yet they started killing the Ukrainians, and our president at that time, Obama, just didn't do anything about it. Now we've sent over defensive weapons, and we're helping them out. And so this is a new America that is just like the old America used to be, and I'm very excited about what's happening. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow in Enid.
I absolutely too, and I want to thank you personally. I appreciate what you do. I'm a card-carrying Republican too, and I personally appreciate all your service you've done through the years. I have a tongue-in-cheek question from one of my bosses. It's not ever going to make it on the air, but I'm going to play it back for him. Jeff wants to know what you're doing to help Oprah over there in California, because she's gotten a lot of press in the last 24 hours.
Well, I'm really torn between Oprah and Elizabeth and Bernie, because, I think I look at them and I think if those are the only three that the Democrats are going to come up with, we're going to have a happy election in the next presidential election.
Sir, I appreciate you, man, and we'll look for you tomorrow, okay?
Look forward to it. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Wear your coat. You're going to need it.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
Bye-bye.